Hey y'all, welcome back to Tobacco Leaf Legacies. I'm Cheryl. Today we have got something really special. Two special things. This location that I'm going to be showing you is special in and of itself, but it's also special to me because it is a location that my my grandmother's mother and father and siblings and some other family members, it is a church that they attended back in the day. Now, I've been out here to, visit the graves and things like that, but I have not been able to go in the church. The church is not open all the time. But I sent a couple messages and made a phone call, and someone was nice enough and kind enough to let me come in, and a couple cousins of mine. And so I'm very excited to show you historical Hephzibah Church in Wendell, North Carolina. Let's go. Let's start with the name. Hephzibah is in the Bible, but it's only mentioned twice. The first is when Hezekiah, one of the more prominent kings of Judah, mentions his wife Hephzibah by name. The second is where God called his people by that name. Isaiah 62:4 says, "Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate, but thou shalt be called Hephzibah." Hephzibah means, "My delight is in her." We don't know exactly how the church got its name, but I'd like to think that this passage had a lot to do with it. This is not the original location of the church. The exact spot is unknown, but it was in Wendell. Per the church records, it was constituted into a regular church by elders John Purifoy, who was elected as pastor, and John Gully on December 30th, 1809. In 1811, Hephzibah joined the Raleigh Baptist Association with a membership of 87. Something interesting happened in 1842. 38 members signed a petition to withdraw from the church and form a new one. One reason given was the church was too lax in discipline. For example, they thought the time was coming when a member that was guilty of intoxication need only sign a pledge of abstinence. This group of petitioners was excluded from the church in 1843. In 1864, a letter was written giving permission to 2 slaves to join the church. They were free in 1863, but I think the specific mention is worth noting. Also, after 1865, the African Americans were granted use of the church for a day of worship among themselves. They decided to tear down the original church in 1870. The current Hephzibah Church was built in 1875. In 1879, they helped their African American members build a new church called Swain Street Baptist Church. I believe it still exists under a different name. You see this bell right here? This is the original bell of this church, and they still have it. The church centennial was celebrated in March 1909. According to records, there were at least a couple other buildings on the current property. The last proper service was held sometime in the late 60s, early 70s. Today, proper church services are not held here. However, it is available for non-service events such as civil group meetings, family and high school reunions, weddings, and more. The headstones and monuments that I'm showing you in the video here, most of them don't necessarily have any church significance. I mean, I'm sure that they were members, people that attended the church, but some of them were so unique that I wanted to make sure that I included them here. This one, however, is very significant. This is the resting place of former pastor William C. Noel. He became a member of the church in 1855, was licensed to preach in 1858, and was elected pastor in 1871 at a salary of $125 per year. He served until 1880 and then returned briefly in 1909 for the centennial celebration. just got inside and I'm doing some filming and stuff in there, but my cousin pointed out something kind of interesting. See that date? December 30th? Yeah, it's December 30th. Only in my life. Okay, let's go inside. Isn't it beautiful in here? Now, I wish I could tell you that everything you see is original, but I can't. Most of the original furnishings and such have been lost over the last few decades. Everything that you see here, though, has been lovingly donated to the church. And if I'm remembering correctly, the wood you see on the floor and the ceiling is original. I want to point out the double aisles. For a wedding, I think this is such a beautiful symbolism. The bride can walk down one aisle, either alone or with whomever may be giving her away, and then she can walk up the other aisle with her spouse as they exit. It's a perfect way to reflect the ending of being single and then the beginning of a new life with the spouse. These little gold plaques that you see are available for purchase, and all of the money goes to the upkeep of the church. More about this later. Let's talk about church documentation. You'll see this book of articles they have, which you can look through. It's just some of the pieces of their history. They want to make this entire little corner a kind of library, showcasing the church's history. They have a lot to sort through and to organize, and they are constantly getting more from the community. So if you know of anyone who has ties to the church, maybe have some old records that have been stuffed away in a box, photos, etc., the board of the church would love to include the information in their collection. See that little piece of slate? That's what used to cover the roof. Many of the photos that you see here were previous pastors of the church. And this is the corner area that I was talking about that they want to turn into a little library. You see they've got quite a lot to go through, but this is really going to be a nice space for those that want to come in and learn more about the history of the church. I decided to go back outside. The sun was going down, and of course it's Christmas, and so they have the lights and everything in the windows, and with it being dark, it just really made the church look even more beautiful. Walking in like this, it just gives it a completely different feel. All right, so I am in the church and I am with Tana, and she is on the board for the church, and she is going to tell us a bit about it, talk about the history, and I've got some questions that I'll ask her too if she doesn't automatically answer them. Okay, let me flip this around. Hang on.
Hi, and thank you for coming to Historical Hephzibah. We love this old building. My family, personally, it is very special to us because my great aunt and my aunt both sat on the board prior to me. The board exists for the historical church here on this side. They both had a seat on the board. When they passed away, I took the board seat for them. So it's very special to me. Every year, my Christmas starts by decorating this church.
Which is beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
It's very simple, but it's the traditional red and greens of the time of the church, and it just starts my Christmas off every year.
It's so neat. All right, so tell us a little bit about the church, like how it got started, or just whatever you know as far as how the church got started.
Historical Hephzibah, the original Hephzibah was started in 1809 here in Wendell. Unfortunately, I didn't come here until I was a teenager. And by the time I came here in the 80s, the church was like it is right now. So for me, it's always been a place for weddings, funerals, some community events, family reunions. They do open the doors up and people pay a small donation to get to use the building. And that preserves the building.
And let's go through some of what I've got. Do you know where the church got its name? Do you know where Hephzibah came from?
I do know.
Because that was one thing I was thinking of last night. It's like, where did Hephzibah come from? Because it's such a unique name.
I do not know, but the list that I gave you on the history of the church, it may be something in there.
Yeah, and I haven't looked over that yet. I figure I'll look over that when we're done here. Do you know if there was any sort of significant event that happened here? Did a group in Wendell hold anything here, or sign anything here?
Well, a couple years ago, now since 1809, there was a lot of things here. You know, a lot of weddings, a lot of funerals, a lot of family reunions. Back when the church was original, sunrise services were here. The graveyard's outside, which is where both my aunts are. So they did used to have the sunrise service here, which are always very special.
Now, was that all the time, or was that just Easter? Because I know it's
Easter. Sunrise service is always Easter.
Okay.
Yeah, so they did that. Yeah. And of course, there's other community things they did over the years. Most recently, I had the Raleigh Bell Ringers here. That was about 5 years ago. It was beautiful. We opened up the church to the Raleigh Bell Ringers. We opened up for local people who sang, played the banjo, a couple of them. We had a grandfather come and sing, and his daughter showed up, and then his grandson showed up. And they sang in front of the church. It was beautiful. That was the Hopkins family, and their videos on my Facebook page. If anybody wants to see it, lovely family.
For the Facebook page for the church?
It is, on the Facebook page for the church. So as far as events here, we don't really do a whole lot. I do like to open the church up during the holidays, especially if people ask, like, your family. I love to do that. I love to show it off because it's very special to me.
It is special. It's really pretty in here. Let's see, I'd already asked you about like whatever was original here. Are there, and you've kind of mentioned it over there because I was going to ask if there's like old photos and documents and registers and stuff like that. So what you have is what you were showing me that was in the back.
Right. We have everything here, some in a scrapbook, some locked up in cabinets, according to the ages of most of it. We do have to spend a little bit more time here getting the archives together, but we don't have a lot, unfortunately.
And it is a shame because the way we are now with like documenting like every second and doing all the pictures and all the video, and of course we didn't have that back then, but oh my gosh, that would have been so awesome if we could. Was there no other church in this area? Is that kind of, I guess, how the interest was to start this one?
There was other churches, and if you actually go out and look at some of the old churches, they'll have the placard on the door or the wall telling you what age it was. There was other churches. This was just the local Baptist church, and that's where most of us started, or came back to, especially when we came home. This church actually is giving credit for starting the Riley Hill Baptist Church. And it's in the notes that I gave you. There is actually documentation saying that they gave money to start the Riley Hill Church. So Hephzibah did help a lot of other stuff here in the area.
Yeah. Oh, that is cool. All right, what else did I have here? You mentioned it's on the Wake County Historical.
Well, it's got enough of the historical stuff that they do recognize us as being a historical building, and so does the Wendell Historical Society. We've actually worked with them a couple of years when they do their open houses. We either like to be the beginning or the end house that you come to. If we're the beginning, of course, we wish everyone Merry Christmas and that type thing, and then they go. But if we're at the end, which we've done twice since I've been on the board, we have snacks here and hot cider. Cool. And we let people kind of hang out and listen to some Christmas music.
Oh, that is so neat. You probably don't know this. I'm going to ask well, no, wait a minute. Let me go back to the historic thing. There is the National Register of Historic Places. Is there any chance that this can be on that, or is it different requirements? Or?
I'm not sure about the requirements.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not the one that does that stuff for us.
Okay, because I thought maybe if it was on the other two, like I wondered, is there a chance that
it could be? I think it would just be a matter of someone chasing it down and getting it put on there.
Yeah.
Because the building itself dates back to 1809.
That would be cool. That would be cool if we could do that one too. Do you have any idea of how the services were in the day?
The actual church services?
Yeah.
I don't. Like I said, when I came, it was in the 80s to my aunts, my great aunts. I never went to a church service here. Our services were always across the street.
When was the other one built?
I was looking for that a minute ago. I don't know the date for it, but I know this building was actually recognized as a historical building to stay here in the 80s.
Okay. And this is something I thought of too. Is there anybody, and I mean, obviously not to go back to the 1800s, but is there who's like maybe the oldest person that remembers remembers services here? Do we know someone?
Locally, I'm not really sure of the ages of the people now currently.
Yeah.
But 5 years ago when we had the meet and greet here in the church and we let people come through, there was people in their 70s and 80s who came through and walked and cried. And so they remember going to church here.
Oh.
And a couple of them could remember their parents going to church here. And that for me was very special to see someone who walked in and get to come to the church that they were in as a child.
And reconnect with it like that.
It was wonderful.
Oh, well, that's cool. That is very cool. Is there any story that you've heard that anybody has talked about with any of the cool markers that are out in the graveyard? And I ask that because, and I'll probably put, because I've been here before and I did some video or photo or something of the one in particular, so I'll splice it in here. But there's one that looks like a tree, like it's made to look like a log, and that one especially just stood out to me. It's so unique, it's so cool. So I didn't know if there was any other special stories.
I think was forestry. There was something dedicated with that. And so that's why it was there. As far as the others, I think they're just family markers. There's some really original ones out there though. But most of the ones that are that original are people who've passed a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the stories didn't, or at least we don't have the stories right now.
And that's what's so sad about that, is there how many just stories in general, whether it's in the church, whether it's out there, how many stories get lost?
It's just like currently. I had a friend pass away recently and they put an 18-wheeler on his grave. His headstone is an 18-wheeler truck. And it's wonderful. You know, the picture of it on the headstone and all that stuff is beautiful. But unless you knew him, you wouldn't.
We are waiting for the siren, y'all. Because that is so loud. Okay.
But unless you knew him, you would have to wonder or guess as to why they put that on his gravestone.
Yeah. And years from now.
There's a lot of really neat ones out here.
They're beautiful, and like I said, that one with the wood, I just thought that was like the neatest thing. All right, well, I think that was kind of all the stuff that I figured I was thinking of to ask, aside from just general, general information, general history about the church. So then tell me about being on the board and the donations and that side of things.
Okay. My Aunt Juanita Strickland, she was on the board for many years. And then my Aunt Bonnie Strickland Finch was on the board as a secretary for many years.
Another siren, yeah. What's it with the sirens? Okay.
The end of the year.
Yeah, sure.
And as basically what happens with, there has to be a board because it is a historical corporation. So in order to do that, they have to keep a board, and we do have to have meetings. We have a certain number a year we have to come to. Everyone on our board volunteers. We donate our time. We come to the meetings to make sure that the minutes are kept and that it's the way it should be to keep the corporation together to save the building. Currently, we do send out a newsletter. All I had was an old one. Looks like this, but we send it out once a year. What we do now currently is we have to have the meetings. We have the board that all sit here. Like I said, we all volunteer our time. I come decorate once a year for Christmas. And then I take it down about this time every year and we're going to put everything back up for the next year. That's volunteer. But with the board, like I said, we all volunteer. The biggest thing I do every year is I decorate and I clean. I do help them clean up spider webs and just, normal cleaning. But the big thing is decorating. I do it once a year. We have had local garden clubs come help us a couple times. And when we do that, we actually use the real tree branches like they would have done then in the 1800s, which are beautiful. Unfortunately, it's easier just to do the floral greens and reds and fakes, which is what we do currently. But it's beautiful. And to me, it starts my Christmas off. I come every year after Thanksgiving, decorate the church, and then I can go do my mom's house and my house and whomever. But the church is always first. And for me, it's a way also to close down the church after Christmas because we put it all up. Several of the guys that are on the board actually do the labor-intensive stuff. We've got ladies that do a paintbrush and hammer nails as well, but most of the guys will get in and do some of that stuff when we need it done, so it doesn't cost us anything for the church. But the repairs are expensive, and when you have to have them done. So what we do is we send out the newsletter every year, and we'd love to have some more people interested in the newsletter. Basically, it comes to you and it tells you what happened last year to the church. This is an old one actually, but it's the only one I have with me. But it gives you some details as to what we spent money on, what costs to be done this year for the church. And of course, we ask that you mail back a donation to help the church. In order to be on the list as being a friend of the church or helping us with the church, it's $25 a year. If you choose to give more, we absolutely love that because the bills aren't getting any cheaper. And we don't do fundraisers. We don't do anything like that. Community events we can charge a little bit, weddings and funerals. That's the only way we make other income to take care of the building and keep the power on.
Now, are you limited with what you can do? I mean, is there guidelines with what you can do to raise money?
There are. We can do, as long as it's something, we've actually looked at putting a food truck outside, and we may end up doing that. Still, it's one of those things that we can do. The building itself would be open only for people to visit or to come see. It wouldn't be as part of the food or them eating in here. The food truck will be outside, but we have had a couple food trucks come to us and say, look, we would offer, a percentage back to the church. So that's something, and we thought of some other ideas, but we haven't really pulled them all together yet. The biggest one was for us to do the open house at Christmas, but with COVID, we haven't been able to do that the last couple of years.
What about other holiday stuff? Because when you decorate for Christmas, it's so pretty, and so I know it means nothing, but something like for Valentine's or Easter, that kind of, because I can just kind of see different springy flowers and different things here or on the doors or whatever.
We've actually decorated for Valentine's Day. We've put red hearts on the doors, made it look a little more like a wedding place to go get married. And then of course Easter, we always put up a peace lily. We do the peace lilies on the doors, and they're beautiful. But unfortunately, as far as services here, we don't do the services here. It's just for community events and weddings and funerals.
Okay, what else do you want to tell me about this awesome, beautiful old church?
Truth, I'm just very flattered that you love the church as much as we do. I really am. It brings a lot home to me. You know, this church has been a foundation for a lot of my life. My youngest son actually was saved across the street at the other church. We're members here at the church, and were for many years. And it was wonderful to watch my son grow up in church. And now it's very special to me that he sees how much this church means to me, the historical side of it. He's 25. So it's been great to see him watch as he grows up, me decorate and come up here, and it's been wonderful.
That is nice. I was just looking at this little enrollment attendance brought Bible thing. Where did that come from?
That actually is part of it's one of the parts from, I'm not certain if it was original to this church,
right,
but it is original to the old churches. You know, when they did come in and people showed up, they kept up with enrollment, how many were actually on their list that belonged to the church. And they kept up with how many of them came to church and how many didn't show up, because, you know, now you can do the math and see how many heathens we have out there. You got that? And then, of course, of the 56 that came to church that day, only 52 brought a Bible. So 4 of them didn't do that part either. You have to remember. Yeah, but you have to remember. Part of that society was keeping each other in check. And what better way to keep you in check than there's 117 people, only 56 showed up. So do we have that many sick? We need to go check on doors and take soup? Or do we need to go make them come to church next Sunday?
Right.
And they were serious about it.
And you were telling me about the windows. Tell me about the windows again. Let's see. And I'll just kind of do this real quick so we can see. You can't see out of the windows. There is kind of
it's paint.
It's paint. Okay. So they put paint on the windows, and this is why.
The older churches either had stained glass, and the ones that couldn't afford stained glass in their churches, most of the times they painted the windows. And the reason for that was people in church needed to be paying attention to the preacher, not looking out the window at the flowers and the butterflies.
And the nice trees that were out there.
Exactly.
You need to pay attention. I like that. Because honestly, I thought that they were probably like that here because it's an older church and for like protection, to not have people looking in and what's there and like that kind of thing. So that's why I thought it was interesting when you were telling me about that. Oh, that wasn't the reason I thought they were.
Well, it's a double purpose.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, especially like you said, we don't want people seeing what's in here. There's not a lot they can take, but still, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, some people are just a little too nosy for their own good anyway. All right, so anything else about this? Oh, tell me about, I was just looking, tell me about let's see.
Oh, the gold tags?
Yeah.
The brass plates?
Let me, you just sit right where you are. Okay, there are, let's see. What am I looking at? These little plaques. Okay, so how do you get a plaque here?
The brass plaques are purchased by a family. You actually would call us, the secretary orders them for us. There's a cost for that. I'm not certain what the price is now to put it in the building, but there's a certain dollar amount and it's very inexpensive. And they put it on a bench or on a table, or if you have something you want to donate. In some cases we've had people donate pictures. Matter of fact, the picture over up front, the Lord's Last Supper, actually was donated by a family and the name is on it. My aunt and my great aunt that sat on the board, they're on the back, on the wall back there, on the brass plates. Their names are on those. And the families pay for that to be done. It doesn't happen just because you were here. Yeah. And the money, again, goes to support the church, take care of the building.
I think I saw on something that whatever I was looking at, it was like $100 at the time, but I'm assuming it's probably gone up.
As far as what, the plate, the brass plates? Probably so. I looked at something too that said that it was $100 to have a wedding here, and last I checked, which was about a year ago, it was $150. So the prices have gone up a little bit. The big thing that people don't want to get married here is because there's nowhere to get dressed, bride and groom. But if you come dressed, it's a beautiful historical building. It is just absolutely beautiful. The acoustics are amazing in here with music.
Just us sitting and talking, it just sounds
like it should.
Yeah. Just that slight kind of little echoey sort of sound.
And for a wedding, hearing the pastor speak in here is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
He wouldn't need a microphone.
No, and
I mean, you could use it, but
you wouldn't have to have it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And the last pastor that I heard speak in here at a wedding, it was just, it moves your heart because you hear it on the wall. You hear it coming from the walls and the acoustics in the building. It's beautiful. And it was a very religious service anyway. So he was very, he prayed with the couple, which was wonderful. And it was just wonderful. It really was to hear him speak like that in this church. And there's not many venues left you can go to for that price. So if you just get dressed at home, you could come here. Or we have had people bring an RV, park it outside for the bride to get dressed. The groom comes dressed. It can work around things. Very inexpensive place to have a wedding.
And I think that's worth it to get married somewhere like here. I mean, what would it cost? The day you were telling me somebody had a RV or something that they had pulled over here. I don't know how much it would cost to rent something like that, but if you would rent it just for a day, I mean,
you're still getting the building for less than $200.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's gone up again, it's less than $200 to have a wedding. And you have one of us here. Someone from the board comes. We unlock the door. We wait. We will not join your wedding. We'd like to join your wedding. We'll be there to watch it. But we do sit back and, we'll stay out of the way, of course. But we are here for the whole service. And once your family leaves, we turn off the lights and straighten the building back up and we leave. So it's a lot for the money.
Yeah. Now, is there just the Facebook page that you have, or is there like a regular .com too?
Just the Facebook page. Okay. Yes. But we would love to have lots of people contact us there. Anything they post there or ask questions, it all comes to me. I take care of it, so I'll take care of all the questions. My cell phone number's out there as well. It's what you called me on. Thank you. I'm so glad you did. But that's out there also, and they're welcome to call if they have any questions about the church or the building, or if they want to rent it for something. I personally would love to see some family reunions come back up here. I would love to have a couple of reunions up here and just have families here on the property again.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, bonus if they have connections here, if they have family members that are, that went here and stuff.
That would be wonderful because there's so many families from here local. The Stricklands, the Bunn. If you go through the graveyard, which you did today, there's so many families represented here and have got a connection to this building. But what people coming from here take for granted, because it's always been here, the people who are now moving here, the people in Wendell Falls, the people who are new to the area, it's a wonderful place to see an old structure that could still come used for a wedding or a family reunion. It would be wonderful to have them come enjoy that.
Thank you, Tana.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our video. Is this church just not so unbelievably beautiful? The history is just incredible. I am very thankful and grateful that I was allowed to come in here and allowed to video and show you guys this. Maybe some of you that are from the area are probably very familiar with it. I encourage you to check it out, to look up their Facebook page. I'll either put the link here in the video if I can, or put it in the link in the description in the video for you to check out. If you're interested in donating to it, they take donations, and that is how the church is taken care of. And like I said, I'm so thankful and grateful to have been able to do this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Time is precious. Carpe diem. Seize the day. I'll see you next time.